l'intervention des... que tout le monde a eu l'opportunité de pouvoir se dégourdir un petit peu, une pause santé, sinon pause café, comme mon collègue ici. Lui, s'est pris une pause café. Moi, j'ai fait une pause santé.
Tout à fait.
So we hope that you had the opportunity to move away from your computer, stretch a little bit so that we can come back and continue and finish this segment of our conversation that we're having today. Je vais juste laisser la parole à Kaifa de nous partager une pensée par rapport à tous ces échanges qu'on a eus jusqu'à date. Et ensuite, nous allons aussi donner la parole à Madame Dulary, Pretty Paul, qui est aussi connectée en ligne, qui voulait aussi nous adresser avec quelques mots. Alors, à toi la parole, Kaifa.
Merci encore une fois. J'espère que tout le monde est en pleine forme actuellement. C'est juste dire à Leroy et son équipe que l'AJFAS a contribué à mettre en place des structures dans la communauté. Et l'un des groupes qui est sorti de ça, c'est le groupe des aînés. Alors, nous sommes à peu près 56 personnes à Edmonton, ici, à travers le Canada, qui peuvent intervenir en tant que doyens crédibles. Parce qu'on a parlé de la confidentialité. Donc, par rapport à la confidentialité, s'il y a des aînés qui sont crédibles dans la communauté, donc la partie communication, ce qui est essentiel dans les interventions, ça se facilite. Donc, Leroy, est-ce que vous êtes prêt à collaborer avec l'AJFAS pour faire intervenir les aînés de la communauté francophone?
So the question is to Leroy and the rest of the team that spoke earlier. Khalifa is saying that you talked about bringing in different types of partners. He has mentioned that one of the outcomes of the workshops and all the awareness raising that AJFAS has done so far with the work in the past 2 years is to have an elders group. So there's an elders group that's already formed, francophone African community, mainly in Edmonton, but also they are across Canada. So would you be interested in collaborating with that type of group in order to support those families, in order to provide that guidance, in order to provide that support that was mentioned earlier?
Wow, that is, Joan, is it okay if I take this one? I'll run with this. Yeah, that is great. That's what it's all about, right? Is that collaboration and connection. And this, with an elders group, we're always willing and open to collaborating and speaking about what we're about and what we can learn and how we can help support. And we do know, and from experience, that elders are the cornerstone to the community and to getting information out. And we do know that when elders are involved, from experience, is that things go a lot smoother, families are more supported, and there's a confidence within the community. So definitely I'd love to, like I said, with AJFAS and us and multicultural and Chris's area there, definitely be able to get together for sure. Thank you. Really looking forward to that.
Sounds good. We'll let that be handled by AJFAS. Merci encore, Khalifa, et merci aussi à Leroy. Est-ce que Madame Dulary est toujours en ligne? On vous accorde 2 minutes pour pouvoir nous parler.
Oui, je suis là, je ne vais pas tarder. J'ai 2 questions. La première, I suppose I should speak English for Leroy. Okay, my first question is to Mr. Leroy and his team. I know you're making many, you're creating many strategies to reach the community. I wondered whether you've considered maybe having, sensitization workshops in communities. For example, I've always lived in areas where there are community league buildings. Maybe if you did have a workshop or something in such areas, people who live in different communities would be motivated to get more informed about all the programs that you have. Because from the time that I was working with immigrants in an office, there was the fear to address children's services for any issues that would come up. And we did refer through my organization to other partnering organizations. So this was my one suggestion to you. And secondly, I wanted to address the issue of the mountain, is it the mountain program?
Mountain
yes,
plains?
The mountain plan. Have there been any attempt or is there any sign of participation by francophone communities? Because here we are talking about sensitizing everyone to the need of having the voice of francophone immigrant communities heard. Thank you. I'd welcome some reflection on that. Est-ce que je dois traduire?
Non, ça va aller. On va les laisser répondre.
D'accord. Merci.
Sure, I could go. From our perspective, we haven't done an intentional recruitment in that area. So that is one that we would like to do in the future. And so organization like AJFAS, I am hoping will assist us in that. But certainly we recognize that it will be a value. So that's the direction that we would take in, one of our recruitment efforts in the new year for sure.
Thank you.
Leroy, did you have a reply?
Sorry. Did you want me to speak to that briefly about
Yes,
the
please.
workshops in the community? I do know what in the past we were presenting in the community. That's something I will take back. And we have one of our communications, David here on this forum with us, and Joan, who's one of the associate directors, could take that back to our region for sure, because our offices you're right, are in all of Edmonton and surrounding area. And it would be helpful to go out into the communities and speak to what we are to help alleviate the fear and the stigma attached to children's services for sure. So that's something we definitely need to talk about.
Alors, merci.
Thank you.
Vous aviez quelque chose à ajouter, Madame Dulary?
No, ça va. It's just, well, I suppose
On vous a perdu. Vous nous entendez? Est-ce que vous êtes à la sourdine?
I live in an area now where there are many new immigrant families, and I do see their children, and some of them do speak French. I have walked past them very often, and they do congregate in the community league parks and recreation grounds. So I think, if parents in that area were made aware of services that are available, that would be one form of prevention. Thank you.
Alors, merci, Madame Dulary, pour votre question, à savoir si Children's Services organise des engagements au niveau communautaire directement avec les Community Leagues, et aussi Mountain Plains, leur engagement par rapport à inclure des familles francophones dans leurs programmes et services. Alors, les deux intervenants ont répondu qu'il y a définitivement place au travail à faire et qu'ils s'engagent à poursuivre les démarches dans ce sens-là. Alors, merci encore à vous. On arrive au moment où nous allons passer à notre thème 3. So we're going to touch on our theme 3, où est-ce que nous allons avoir deux intervenants. Nous allons avoir Liz Rezkowska et ensuite Constable David Smith qui vont nous partager sur apprenons davantage sur l'équipe d'intervention pour enfants à risque, CARD, CARRT, un partenariat entre le service de police d'Edmonton et les services à l'enfance. So over to Liz, are you online? And also Constable Smith.
Hi, yes, we're here. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Thanks for having us today. So my name is Liz Shahaks. I'm a child protection worker with Alberta Children's Services. I've been a child protection worker for the last 22 years.
I'm sorry, but it's a bit spotty.
Yeah, I think that's the location where we are in our office tower. Is that any better?
Still not, unfortunately.
Okay, we may need to change locations and just go to a window. Sorry, guys.
That sounded better, Liz.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, that sounds really good there. From
So I have to really lean into my laptop.
You're losing me again. No, whatever you were doing before was working, but it's not working now.
Yes. Okay, that's much better.
Right now?
Yes.
Okay, I will try not to move.
Okay.
So we actually, I'll introduce my partner here.
Now we've lost you. Whatever position you're moving into sounds to be better.
Not moving.
Okay, there, that's better.
Not moving.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's give it a try. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is my police partner. I'll just let him introduce himself.
Bonjour everyone, thanks for having us. My name is Constable David. Police.
In any way you can get closer to the microphone, perhaps? Est-ce que l'équipe technique, vous pouvez nous aider?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Constable David Smith. I am with the Edmonton Police Force for the last 9 years. I'm the police partner of my partner here in our CART team. My role is more the police side, and my partner here is more the children's services side.
We do have a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm not too familiar with Zoom. If I just hit share screen, will that pull up PowerPoint?
Yes, I'm sure you should be able to share your screen. Have you been made co-host, Zoom team?
Nope.
Now you are.
Okay, let's see if we can do this. So can everybody see PowerPoint?
Not yet.
Elle doit rester là.
Yes.
From the beginning.
Why is that? Okay, can you see that now?
No, right now we see you. So it looks like we're seeing your computer screen. No, not yet. Not yet.
I think there's a huge delay here that we're having.
I'm sorry, what was that?
There's a delay.
Moi, je l'entends pas.
Du tout. Ça ne fonctionne pas du tout.
Liz, let me check.
Voilà, elle doit rester dans cette position. Ouais.
If it seems that when you get closer to either the computer or the microphone, we hear you better.
Non. C'est là où elle doit.
Okay, can you hear me now?
A little bit.
How do we get rid of this now?
That's
Because
good.
if they can't. Okay, there we go. So you're, I think, not seeing my PowerPoint.
Liz,
No, still not. We're losing you at times.
Okay, no.
Go to the left. Elle doit aller à sa gauche.
Okay. We will just do this PowerPoint presentation by reading it. And hopefully,
Elle doit aller à sa gauche.
If you move a little bit, then we hear you better. Whatever direction you're going, like there's a certain direction, Liz, that you're going, that we hear you better.
yes.
Yes.
go close to your colleague.
Wait, can you hear me now?
We can hear you a little bit, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what is CART? So CART is child at response. Can't hear anything, right?
No.
Okay.
When Constable Smith spoke, he was like straight into the camera. We heard him clearly.
Okay, let me see. We just have double screens here, so it's difficult. Is this
That's
better?
much better. Yes, much better.
Much better. Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty. Let me give this another shout here. Okay, so what is CART? So CART's the Child at Risk Response Team. We were formed about 20 years ago, and the reason why we were formed was that often a child protection worker was on one side of the city waiting for a police officer, and a police officer was on the other side of the city waiting for a child protection worker. So someone decided, why not just team the two up and get a quicker and better response for families? So CART is a partnership between the Edmonton Police Service and Alberta Children's Services. We work directly out of the Zebra Child Protection Center, so that's where our office is located. The center is a multidisciplinary child advocacy center involving the Edmonton City Police, Children's Services, Children's Advocates, the Child Adolescent Protective Center out of the Stollery Hospital, and Alberta Health Services. We work alongside the Crown prosecutors, mental health teams, and volunteers to best advocate for the children who are involved in physical and sexual abuse. CART is a frontline emergency response team and a part of a multidisciplinary team at Zebra. CART consists of 1 sergeant, 6 EPS constables, and 6 Children's Services specialized assessors. These members form 6 different teams that, when deployed, have a police constable and a specialized assessor working in an unmarked police vehicle together as a CART unit. So CART has a total of 6 teams. We work on the odd side of a patrol schedule and an even side. So typically we're on 4 days on, 4 days off, but then you always have coverage because when we're off, the other team is on. CART works a total of 21 hours each day. So we have CART coverage from 0700 hours in the morning to 0400 hours in the morning. So our shifts are 11-hour shifts. So Dave and I today are working till 6, and then the other teams come in at 3, and there's a team that comes in at 5 p.m. What does CART look like? So CART operates in an unmarked police Ford Expedition Max. These vehicles are big because we do need to carry baby seats. Sometimes we need baby supplies, children's car seats, extra supplies like blankets, diapers, wipes, toys, and stuffed animals. CART constables are outfitted in a standard police uniform, as you saw my partner there. And then our Children's Services assessors, so myself and my coworkers, were issued a bulletproof vest. We also carry a radio to assist with the safety of the team. And then each assessor goes through mandatory screening and training put on by EPS to ensure that we are aware of the principles surrounding officer and scene safety. So roles in the CART unit. So police, constable, and assessor will both assess the environment and safety of a child. Both can interview the child as trained in forensic interviewing of children, and that often would occur at the Zebra Child Protection Center where we are right now. We can both interview the non-offending guardian, both determine the path of investigation criminally and for the protection of the child. So we're looking at the criminal aspect of what's happening in the family, but we're also looking at child protection and ongoing supports for the family. The benefits of this are that each member of the team brings a wide range of information and experience, allowing a better investigation and voice of a child. But often it also helps the child just tell their story once instead of just re-traumatizing the child by telling the story multiple times. The constable has authorities under all provincial acts, so authorities under the Criminal Code of Canada, provides police with history and CPIC information, access to all EPS units to assist, provides safety on the scene, event, collects evidence, interviews all complainants, witnesses, and the accused, and lays applicable charges. My role as a specialized assessor, I have authorities under the Child, Youth, Family Enhancement Act. I provide children's services history. I conduct family interviews, provide a safety plan for the family, and conduct child interviews. I have access to numerous resources, and I determine the placement of the child with the support of my supervisor and sometimes manager. What CART deals with? CART is mandated to deal with children who are at imminent risk. I like to use the analogy that CART is the EMS, like ambulance, of child protection. So we go in when children and families are at crisis and at high risk, and we create a safety plan, and then children's services offices follow up with that safety plan and assess the family further. So the types of calls that we get involved in are domestic violence where children are present, parents and guardians intoxicated by drugs, alcohol, and there's no sober caregiver. Child that's left alone, usually under the age of 12, but it can be older depending on the child's developmental level. If there's not enough food to feed the kids, usually not enough food to last until the morning. There have been times where CART teams have actually gone grocery shopping, and I can tell you, we get very strange looks when we're at the grocery store in uniform buying groceries, but we have bought groceries for a family if that's what's necessary. Allegations of child physical and sexual abuse. We deal with the offender that still has access to a child or a parent or guardian unable or unwilling to protect. When in need of assistance in apprehending a child, so often our offices will call us to help them out if a child is required to be apprehended. When in need of advice and consult on a child-related complaint. So CART does a lot of consults with other police officers, with other children's services assessors in the city, because we're kind of seen as subject matter experts in this area. If a child is afraid to return home with legitimate reason, CART gets involved. If there's immediate risk to a child, including neglect, verbal abuse, lack of supervision. Lack of supervision, like I can give you an example. When we get that call that there's a wandering 3-year-old out in the community, those are calls that we typically respond to. CART's agenda and goals. So we really want to provide an effective response to the complaints of children at risk. We want to ensure that children at risk are identified as early as possible and provide the right level of intervention. We want to provide follow-up services to these children by way of referral to the appropriate agencies. I'm going to let you take it away, Dave. Get out of your way.
One of the things we work close with is NACIS. This is the Northern Alberta Crisis Intervention Services. This is a 24/7 crisis unit for children's services. They operate in a center downtown and consist of different partners within children's services to include PSECA AVERT, which is Alberta Vulnerable Infant Response Team. This will be involving children who are ages 0 to 3 months. I have a special specifically for that age group because the extra risks involved in that, and Alberta Health Services. As a partner, CART, which is us, we're dispatched or consulted by police and NACIS, and are utilized as a resource and support by both police and those social service partners. We had police attending calls involving children or possible victims or with other concerns for their well-being will call NACIS or ourselves, CART, if they have concerns that that child might be at imminent risk and we can be of assistance. or they would call us for consultation, support, and to check regarding any child and family services involvement or concerns. NACIS and police can be contacted by any person with concerns over the well-being of a child. So for the public and other groups, NACIS is someone anybody can call with concerns. If they have concerns over children, we work with them. But if it's an emergency, the answer would be to call 911. That's what I would advise to all our partner agencies and everyone in the community. CART members are considered to be subject matters on files and events involving children at imminent risk and the protection of a child. CART members are familiar with the provincial acts and our powers under that. And we have different acts that involve Youth, Child, Family Enhancement Act, the Criminal Code, stuff involving children who are at risk from sexual exploitation or drugs or stuff like that. CART members can provide safety planning and problem solving for children and their families. CART deals with apprehensions of children and placements at secure facilities in Edmonton as well. If a child needs to be interviewed who is a witness to a domestic violence or is a victim of abuse, CART can assist in that, as well as what occurs here at the Zebra Center. CART works in a multidisciplinary area with numerous partners like the Zebra Center, Child Protection Section, that's our detectives who work here in the same building, Alberta Health Services, Children's Services, and the Crown, which is would be our courts. For getting CART involved, as mentioned, we are dispatched strictly by police and NACIS. So if there was a concern made to NACIS and they had concerns and wish something to be done, they might have a work go with police or request that, or they may contact us to assist with that as well. And of course, police. We regularly check the board every day. And if there's a call that comes up, we will go. We will get requested to go. It just depends on the day. Every day is different. And as mentioned, if you have concerns of the well-being of a child, you can call NACIS 24/7 all day, or if it's an imminent risk, please call 911. As mentioned, our authorities: Criminal Code of Canada, the Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, the Protection of Sexually Exploited Children's Act, the Drug Endangered Children's Act, Protection Against Family Violence Act, and Protection of Children of Using Drugs. The PCHAD, which would sometimes be with a secure order, would be for children for experiencing those difficulties. CART is commonly referred to for consults involving charges that relate to children in the Criminal Code and the Alberta statutes we use to enforce that and to protect children. Under the Child, Youth, Family Enhancement Act, you have Section 130, which is a common one, and basically requiring children who are at risk. I don't think I'll read the exact detail of it, but that Section 130 I mentioned, essentially it breaks down to any person who does something that causes the child to be in need of intervention or obstructs, interferes, or attempts to obstruct, interfere with a director, police officer in trying to keep that child safe. What is in need of intervention according to that act? Well, that would consist of a child who has been lost or abandoned, the guardian that the child is deceased or they have no other guardian, a neglected child for a number of reasons. The child has been emotionally injured by the guardian. Once again, this is going to fall under abuse. The guardian is unwilling or unable to protect that child from emotional injury, because children need to be safe. The guardian has subjected the child to or is unable or unwilling to protect the child from cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. That would mean that the guardian is aware of what's going on, that the abuse is occurring, but they're unable or unwilling to stop. There's often, when we get involved, it's not always black and white. Sometimes it's about education, about speaking to them, about talking to how they deal with matters, because some people mean well, but maybe do it in a way which is illegal and considered abusive. So there's different ways we'd approach that. It could be a criminal charge. It could be putting people education, putting in contact with resources. It's essentially with a warning, and that's documented and followed up by Children's Services. So it's not necessarily a criminal charge in all instances, but it certainly can be, but it's not always. When the guardian of the child is unwilling to protect the child from physical injury or sexual abuse, kind of the same as the last one. The last part wouldn't be allowed at all, obviously.
So I just wanted to add that under our legislation, under the Child, Youth, Family Enhancement Act, that emotional injury does include domestic violence. So this is usually where domestic violence falls into. If children are exposed by domestic violence, we consider that they're being emotionally injured, just due to a lot of the new research that's coming forward about the impact of violence on children. And then mental health of a parent would fall into that area as well. Any kind of alcohol and drug abuse falls into emotional injury.
Is that it for your presentation? Liz, are you on mute? We can see you, but we cannot hear you.
Yeah.
There we go. I don't know why I got muted. So I would just like to add that we do work hand in hand with multicultural health brokers as well. We do have a multicultural health broker that's that works out of the Northern Children's Services Intervention Office downtown. That's our after hours office. And when it comes to any kind of language barriers or any kind of families where culture is a component, they will sometimes come out with us, or we get them on the phone so we can interpret, so they can interpret for us. They're a very helpful resource for us after hours, because I do believe that families need to know what is clearly being said to them. And I want to clearly know that they understand what we're dealing with and what we're saying as well. And that's what we have. So I believe there's some time for question and answers.
Yes, there'll be time for question and answers after the presentation following yours. But thank you very much for your presentation, for providing us with such important and relevant information, and sharing about the your structure and the collaboration and the partnerships that you're involved in. Alors, merci beaucoup à Liz et à Constable Smith pour votre présentation, de nous partager la structure dans laquelle est-ce que vous travaillez, ainsi que les partenariats et la collaboration qui aident à faire avancer votre travail au niveau d'intervention auprès de familles, s'il y a besoin d'aller intervenir et puis soutenir les familles et aussi les enfants. Alors, notre prochaine présentation, le thème 4, va venir de Madame Dr. Yvonne Chu, Executive Director of MCHB, présentation des communautés africaines francophones, référence, renforcer les capacités communautaires en matière de santé, de bien-être pour soutenir les familles immigrantes en situation de crise. So, do we have Yvonne on the line?
Yes, Mati. Merci. I'm here. Yes.
Nice
Hello,
to see
everyone.
you, Yvonne.
Nice to see you, Mati. Everyone, Mati was part of our organization just a couple of years ago. So thank you, everyone, for giving a chance to share with you some stats that might also illuminate part of our conversation that we were having just before our constable from CART team joined us. Loketa and I are both very ancient. We've known each other for many, many years, and our two organizations have been working very closely for many years. I have prepared a PowerPoint, and just to avoid the stress that Leroy had to go through, I actually got a colleague to co-host and move through the slide with me. But one thing I wanted everyone to remember what we were discussing just before our constable joined us. One of the true reality, maybe Loketa and I want to remind everyone, is that indeed our populations, our ethnocultural communities have been struggling with three root causes that impact family wellness, say poverty, sort of chronic financial stresses. Of course, you know, our dear colleagues inside system also recognize many mainstream systems are not yet truly responsive to who we are. And at times we see unintentional but existing systemic racism. And of course, with chronic stress of poverty, there's also mental health concern, right? Pre-migration and post-migration. So dear brothers and sisters, we have to recognize there has been a lot of root causes of lack of family wellness and youth wellness for quite a while. And the other part I wanted to say, without causing any stress from our colleagues in the system, is unfortunately the efforts that mean to be upstream, like prevention and early intervention, we have never truly gotten adequate financial resources, sustained funding, right? So that's the truth of our efforts, you know, across sector and community. So I hope everyone agree with that. And so when we share with you our statistics, maybe as we discuss the possibilities in the afternoon, let's really look at more efficacy work around early intervention and prevention funding and resources, right? So I hope that could contextualize my sharing. Lokita, would that be okay? I always check in with my brother. Yeah, and so everyone, the stats that we're presenting, and I have my colleague Aline, who is part of this work with me. She can help elaborate, but the stats we're sharing with you is from the last 6 years of our collaboration with Children's Services. So we cannot guarantee that all of the stats include all of the families from our ethnocultural communities, but at least they're, shall we say, it's not quite the moon. It's the finger pointing at the moon so that we see some trends and some understanding. Is that okay, everyone? Then I will invite my colleague Arlene to present the slides. Yeah. So let us, some of us are more ancient, and so we need larger fonts. Thank you, Arlene. Yeah, thank you. So everyone, let's go to the first slide, beyond the covering slide. So some of our dear colleagues in this meeting know of us. We are in an organization that was created almost 28 years ago by a group of women, 14 ethnocultural community leaders. And when you see the three bullets on the left-hand side, because it was an organization created by the natural leaders, we always knew, like AJFAS, that we have to be holistic in our support of families, that we have to build strong communities, and that includes first language parenting groups and youth groups, just like AJFAS, and that we have to consistently seeking collaboration with systems to advocate for our families and communities, right? And that right now, if you look at the smaller bullets on the right-hand side, we are 128 of us. We're community workers who are primarily from the communities that we serve. So we are part of 25 different ethnocultural communities. We reach probably around 2,000 families each year at any given moment, and we really enjoy a collaboration with AJFAS around youth development. Actually, I would say since the early 2000s, we've been jointly looking at youth leadership development and preventative work. And of course, we're very lucky because we have been working in the early intervention side with Children's Services since 2008. We've been collaborating with Leroy and his colleagues, and we have colleagues who are situated in the 9 neighborhood centers of Children's Services. And as Constable Liz mentioned, we also have a colleague in the after-hour NACIS, right? So that was the last bullet. So everyone, this looked like a complicated diagram, but I'll invite you to focus one element at a time. This is 6 years of stats of our work with all of the ethnocultural families that have been referred to us by Children's Services, Leroy's colleagues. So you could see on the right column, in the last 6 years, we have received 2,525 referrals. And so that's meaning families. That's roughly 5,885 families. And they come from 124 countries, and they speak 77 different languages. Later, we will highlight the stats specific to Francophone African families. But what I really wanted to point out, which we talked about earlier with Leroy and Joan, really, if you look, there, that the proportion of families that moved to open file For example, in 2018, it's only 9% of the families. That's across all of the communities. And if you look at the third small green bubble, the circle, 71% of the families have closed with children's services at intake and assessment. Remember, Leroy said there is a process. The families first meet with children's services for intake, just to see and find out where there's any really safety protection concern. And then if there's a little bit of concern, they move to assessment to really hear from the families. So what I wanted to let everybody know, 71% of the families don't go further than intake and assessment, which means it's primarily prevention and early intervention issues. It's not child protection issues. So I hope that makes sense, everyone. I'm really looking at, maybe nods and acknowledgement, hey. So so the next slide is just to show you of the 2,525 referrals that we got across communities, the French-speaking African community in Boded, Lilac, in total 201 families out of 2,525. And that's roughly 8% of all of the referrals we got. And so that's something to note. Hey? It's not high on the list. It's in the middle of the list. It's at 8%. So makes sense, eh, everyone? So far, so good? The numbers are okay? Then please interrupt me if you wanted a quick clarification. If not, we could move to the next one. So out of the 201, each year we have, average 30-some referrals from that are of francophone African families. And in the last 6 months, in 2021, we had received 16 referrals. And so you see on the side some of the source countries, but we'll move to a slide that shows the, okay, so here, Lukeda asked me to let you all know, where do the families live? And the easiest way for us to show you is, as you know, Leroy and his colleagues are working in neighborhood centers in different parts of Edmonton. And so when you look at the list, so far, most of the families, 45 of them, live by East Rundle Borden Park area in the northeast. And then the next area that families lived in is the northeast part of Edmonton. So that's in the map. It's the large kind of high left corner section, the kind of yellowish orange section. Central Edmonton, in the center, which is the darker orange, we had received 25 families as referrals. Then we moved to the southeast, which is more the Millwoods area. We had 22 families in the last 6 years. And then north central, which is the pink, you see the hot pink area, that's where we got 19. And then southwest, which is more Southgate, Twilliger, we had 18 families, hey? And after hours, which is NACES, Constable Lisa mentioned, the team that works after 5 o'clock received 14. So that could be from any part of Edmonton. But I won't go through all of the lists, but does that help everyone? So far, we know where the families are located in the different parts of Edmonton, right? Sort of the larger communities. I can't say neighborhoods. So hopefully this is helpful. And here, this is for the last 6 months. Again, where do the families live? Still, Northeast is on the top of the list. North Central, so still the northern part of Edmonton. Central Edmonton have a couple. East is where was the top of the list earlier. We got 2. Station on White, as you all can imagine, is in Strathcona area. We got 2. And then the rest are just one family. Just to give you a sense of where the families live. So hopefully that's still helpful. The next slide, Arlene. Yeah, and so we just wanted to let you know, we also track the source countries of where the families live, right? So first of all, Francophone families were 5th on the list of ethnocultural communities and only 80% of our total referral. In terms of source country, I have to qualify, it might not be accurate, 100% accurate. So it's self-identified by the families, right? So it cannot be 100% accurate. But so far, we noted that Democratic Republic of Congo was the top of the list for where the families came from. And so it's so we just wanted to mention that, right? So 34.
Sorry to interrupt, Yvonne. Someone raised their hand, and there's a chat message in the chat room for you.
Okay.
We're gonna leave the questions for until after Yvonne is done, if that's all right.
Sure. Thank you, Aline, and thank you, Mati. Okay, so long as everyone make a note where it's not clear, we'll talk about that. Okay, so let us move to the next slide. The next slide is just showing the source countries. Aline, if you don't mind. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. I thought we won't have any PowerPoint glitches, so we are having a little bit. So, yeah. So,
it is all part of the process.
yeah, I know Dulari, my beloved Dulari has a question. We'll get to that later. So we're now going to the next slide. And so everyone, if you're a little bit curious about the source countries of the families, here are the lists. Aside from the Democratic Republic of Congo, we have Cameroon, Haiti, Burundi, Rwanda, and so the list go on. And so from the top to the lower part of the list. Yeah. And in terms of ages, Luqueta asked us to share the ages. So it looks like the top number, the highest number of children or youth involved were, of course, 7 to 10, which is 120 of the children. And then, of course, the little ones, 108 of 0 to 6. And then, of course, teen years, age 14 to 16, we have 82 children out of the 201 plus families. Hopefully this makes sense, everyone. Yeah. So Aline, let's go next. Yeah. Now this is very important, huh? Remember earlier, Joan and Joan and Leroy all mentioned that most of our families don't go into open file, but when they do touch children's services, what we wanted to mention that 28% of the families have family violence as a presenting issue. 46% were very much tied to parenting or discipline issue involving often physical discipline. So the top two bullets, it's suggesting where can we do more early intervention and prevention work. So it's definitely tied to parenting, particularly a different discipline style, and then family violence at 46% on parenting discipline, 28% on family violence. Now then next come 5% for mental health. Now that's only when the children's services and us initially contact the family. Often when we got to know the family, mental health is more prevalent than the 5%. And it's very common in the family violence part. And so 3% had sexual abuse as a presenting issue, and then 2% had basic needs as an issue. But that's at the time of when the family touched child welfare. But when we got to know them, we see more and more to be tied to discipline or parenting or family violence. Yeah, and we can talk about that a little bit more later. So we're almost coming to the end of the presentation and we can have more conversation. So let's move to the next. Here we said that really, from what we know, we might not have all of the families who are from the Francophone African community. From the 201 families we've been in touch with, only one family has the child go into care, meaning as Chris and Joe mentioned, into formal care, and they are with a Francophone foster family, as far as we know. That's the only family we know with a child in formal care. The rest of the families actually did not stay in children's services after intake and assessment, the very initial part of child welfare process. Majority of the family did not have any involvement with child welfare children's services before. And again, as we looked at the previous slide, the top two reasons why the families became connected with children's services was parenting and discipline issue and family violence, right? So it just speaks about what can we do collectively collectively to heighten the prevention education and early intervention support for our families who are so burdened with poverty and other stresses in their lives, right? And underemployment. This is the last slide. As I mentioned, Lokita and I, our organizations have been collaborating for years and years. And of course, when it comes to early intervention and child intervention work, AJFAS have been a highly valued collaborator with us. And so AJFAS has, when it comes to families touching children's services, they've been able to help us with one-on-one French parent education. We had together partner with Catholic Social Services to run a Parenting in Two Cultures series because we noted the parenting issue. And we have joint case support for these families, and we make mutual referral with each other beyond children's services. And so us, as the closest colleague to AJFAS and Children's Services, we really wanted to echo what Chris said and many said. Our community's capacity, our family's capacity really need to be built. Together, we need to seek sustained, adequate funding for family wellness education. That includes, of course, the challenge of raising children in multiple culture, the children's struggle with their identity, the parenting strategies that could help parents who are so stressed with life here in Canada. And the second one is early intervention support. We really need to look at family violence prevention. As we saw, 28% of the 201 families had family violence issue. And Constable Lisa mentioned how family violence is viewed as a child protection issue. We really need to offer more learning about and learn more about child intervention system to prevent the involvement, right? And I'm so glad that Andre is talking about mental health. Actually, Aline mentioned to me, since COVID or even pre-COVID, youth mental health has been a deep worry of ours. So how can we support youth mental health and mental wellness? And of course, the parents too. But we wanted to say COVID heightened the mental health concern, particularly the youth, given the reality. And then lastly, I wanted to echo what Joan and Chris mentioned. We really need to help our communities with caring families understand the full spectrum of care, from informal community care, which a lot of families are willing to as part of kinship, but also formal respite care for families with children with disability. And definitely, as Chris said, learn more about kinship care, which often happens in our communities. And on occasion, we might need foster parent from our own community who speaks the same language, have the cultural understanding and same faith. So that concludes my presentation. And so we can put the slides away, everyone, if you're okay, and we can have a conversation together. Everyone, was that okay? Not too much information? Okay. So we can start the conversation, everyone. How much time, Matik, should we have?
Our next item on the agenda was to have our break, and then we were going to follow with group conversations, group dialogue about how to improve collaboration, and which Khalifa was going to touch on. I'm just going to take the pulse here et voir comment est-ce que les gens se sentent par rapport à la pause. Est-ce qu'on peut se donner 5 minutes de pause? Would 5 minutes be okay for a break? I can't see your responses, but somebody let me know. 5 minutes de pause, est-ce que ça va? Oui. Oui, d'accord. So,
oui.
On va prendre une pause de 5 minutes et puis on va revenir tout de suite dans 5 minutes. So we'll continue the conversation and then allow a few minutes for questions in regards to the card presentation and also to Yvonne's presentation. Donc, on va prendre maximum 2 questions par rapport à la présentation de Yvonne et de Car dans 5 minutes. Alors, on se revoit dans 5 minutes.
Ils sont rapides. les groupes.
Alors, nous sommes de retour. J'espère que vous avez pu profiter de vos 5 minutes de pause. Nous allons nous lancer dans le dialogue, les groupes de discussion. Mais avant tout, je pose la question à l'équipe de technique. Et j'aimerais encore remercier l'équipe de Garnet TV pour votre soutien aujourd'hui. Nous sommes dans leur studio aujourd'hui. Et toute personne associée directement et indirectement avec le soutien de la technique et avec l'équipe aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup pour votre travail si bien fait. Est-ce qu'on a des questions dans le Zoom? Des gens qui ont peut-être levé la main? On va en prendre une ou deux tout au plus. Est-ce qu'on a des questions? D'accord. On a des questions? On a Madame Dulary qui a une question?
Oui, c'était une question qui a été répondue dans une certaine mesure, mais je crois que j'aimerais remercier, comment ça s'appelle, Yvonne pour son travail. Est-ce qu'elle est là? Elle est toujours là ou bien non?
Yvonne, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here, everyone. Yeah.
Well, hi, Yvonne. Welcome back after many, many years.
Thank you, Dulary.
We started working together on the status of immigrant women, and now we are to the third generation almost.
Yes.
Nous avons collaboré, Yvonne et moi, pendant longtemps dans d'autres organismes. Et comme je l'ai dit, on avait travaillé pour la reconnaissance des femmes immigrantes. Et puis maintenant, ce sont des enfants qui nous préoccupent. Bon, my first question it was relating to the percentages you gave of different francophone countries. Would it be possible to have those given to maybe Luceta's office? Because then we could have access to them, so I won't waste time on them. And secondly, I understand better now where child services, that in closing of the intake puts a higher, responsibility on the community. If I'm not correct, you correct me. So that, of course, calls for more resources, both in terms of people employed to offer certain services in these offices and financial resources. Am I correct?
Dulary, first of all, absolutely. I will share the PowerPoint with Luceta's team.
That would be good.
Yeah, but maybe I'll just clarify a little bit, Dulary. As Leroy had mentioned, and Joan too had mentioned, most of the families that touch children's services don't have serious protection issues. It's more family with vulnerable conditions, right? So it would require actually more prevention and early intervention attention. And of course, more of us building our own community's capacity to support families with adequate support from systems. That's what I'm thinking personally, looking at the stats. Indeed, Leroy and Joan had mentioned, of course, inside child welfare and other government systems, they are sincerely committed to improving diversity within amongst their staff, right? But from our own experience, observing the cases, we need more efforts and resources in the prevention, early intervention.
Thank you very much.
Alors, thank you so much. Merci, Madame Dulary. Thank you, Yvonne. Yvonne, I'm just going to summarize what I remember from your presentation. Vous avez dit qu'il y a beaucoup de problèmes qui sont les causes des situations qu'on retrouve dans les familles, entre autres la pauvreté, le stress chronique, le problème de racisme systémique, aussi un soutien financier qui n'accompagne pas toujours les services et les programmes qui sont disponibles dans la communauté. Alors, et aussi, vous avez souligné qu'il y a de toutes les interventions dont vous nous avez fait part dans les statistiques et tout, il y avait à peu près 200 quelque chose familles avec lesquelles vous avez travaillé, mais un seul enfant s'est retrouvé de façon formelle dans le service de Children's Services qui ont eu besoin d'être pris en charge in care. Et aussi, il y a aussi le besoin de réitérer encore que il y a un besoin financier, des moyens financiers qui doivent accompagner ces services et et ces besoins-là des familles. Et aussi l'appel encore des familles qui sont prêtes, qui se sentent disponibles à pouvoir aider, devenir soit kinship ou bien foster families. Et aussi, vous avez lancé cet appel-là. Alors, merci beaucoup, Yvonne, pour votre présentation. Merci de pouvoir partager votre présentation avec le bureau de l'AJFAS qui pourra les partager avec les participants. So we're going to move on to the last section here. We have less than an hour left to our meeting.
Oh, sorry, can I just interrupt? We're going to need to leave. We just got a call, so we have to go. So thank you very much for inviting us. Sorry that we couldn't stay. And thanks again. Bonjour.
Thank you. Thank you to the CAR team.
Mathie, peut-être je vois deux mains levées là, si vous pouvez leur accorder la parole avant de passer aux séances de groupe.
D'accord, on a deux mains levées auxquelles on peut accorder 1 minute. Est-ce que c'est des questions ou commentaires?
Moi, j'ai une question.
Oui.
OK. J'ai juste deux questions à madame qui vient de présenter. Est-ce que, concernant les statistiques, est-ce que vous considérez que 8% des statistiques des personnes qui viennent de notre communauté, par rapport à leur représentation dans la population, j'estime, est-ce que vous considérez alors que c'est une over-représentation des enfants de notre communauté qui sont référés à vous? Deuxième question, c'est que je pense qu'il y en a plus d'un enfant qui est dans le système. Alors, je suppose qu'il y en a qui ne sont pas référés à votre organisation. Quelles seraient les raisons? Compte tenu que nous savons que, en général, c'est la façon de discipliner qui amène les enfants chez vous.
So, Yvonne, the question is asked to you. You shared the statistics about 8% of Francophone children, African, in the system. Do you feel that could be an overrepresentation given the actual population number of that specific group? And also, I recalled you mentioned one child that is in the system that ended up actually in the system. The other cases were limited in intake and assessment. But was that specific to just maybe Edmonton or I'm not sure where our participant is connecting from, but is this just specific to Edmonton or can you speak to all of Alberta?
Thank you, Matty. George, it's actually just specific.
No. I wanted to mean since there is more than one in the care. So does it mean there are many who are not referred to you, to your organization, and what will be the reason?
Okay. Well, George, we don't know how many families might not have been referred to us. So, that we could. Maybe with Leroy, we could carefully see how we could, track that. It's a little bit more difficult, but so really all I could say is of the families, 201 that reached us, only one family got into care. Hey, and so yeah.
Okay, and we're about in terms of 8%. Is that an overrepresentation given the actual population of Francophone Africans?
Here I have to look at and other dear colleagues who are very familiar with the population size. So unfortunately, I don't know the population. So
maybe what I'd like to answer about this question, even we are welcoming many Francophone immigrants here in Edmonton. Even if it was 3% is too much for us. So we cannot accept that number could increase or even most of the time. I think we should focus on that percentage, as we state that in our term of reference. We should meet with the community after 2 years, and then we will see after 2 years what we will do with that kind of the statistic, and it will go low, and that is something we should work on it together, how we could address those issues as discipline, conflict generation, and also family violence. When we will decrease those numbers, I think that will affect that statistic. I think for now, I should say maybe 8% is too much. Thank you.
Alors, merci pour votre intervention, Monsieur Luketa. Et juste pour réitérer, au nombre un enfant qui est dans le système, c'est par rapport aux cas qui ont été référés à Multicultural Health Brokers. Alors, on a une autre participante, José, qui a la main levée.
Oui, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Très bien.
Oui, OK. So I just wanted to make a comment because I used to work for 4 years at the Edmonton Mennonite Center for Newcomers as a psychotherapist. So I want to say hello to Yvonne because I've never met Yvonne in person, but I heard a lot about Yvonne. And I worked very closely with Aline. And I guess the comment that I want to make is that sorry, looks like I'm not in the middle there. We talked a lot about collaboration, and when I was working with families, children, and I always work with their parents, I could have not done that work without the team that was around. I worked with broker, with social worker from our organization. I worked with the children's services, and I could have not done that work on my own. It would have been too much. So I just want to share that what you're doing, creating a team for the family and the professional that are involved, it works. I've seen a lot of great healing with family, and it was, I would say, the most satisfying work that I've done in my career. And I think it was because of the teamwork. It was very encouraging. So I just want to share that.
Thank you, José.
Merci beaucoup, José, de nous partager votre témoignage et votre expérience. En effet, on remarque que la collaboration, les partenariats sont très importants pour ce genre de travail, aussi pour assurer un bon suivi pour les familles et pour les enfants. Alors, nous allons passer... il y avait une dernière question qui était dans le chat. Je n'aimerais pas que quelqu'un se sente oublié. Il y a une question qui avait été posée, et je vais la dire en anglais parce que ça allait plus vers Leroy et puis Joan. Does Children's Services has anti-racism committee in order to assess and evaluate services in regards to racism? So how do you deal with anti-racism in terms of your program and services internally? So that was a question that was posed earlier in the chat. I don't know if Leroy or Joan is still here to be able to quickly provide a response to that. Est-ce que vous êtes encore avec nous?
Hi, it's Leroy here. I can't speak to I could speak a little bit to what's happening in the training aspect for all children's services on a provincial level, is that we have to take a conscious bias training, cultural sensitivity training that's provided. Those are some mandatory training that all staff have to go through. Whether we have an anti-racism program, not that I'm aware of. I just know of the different cultural aspects, awareness. And most recently, the mandatory training on culture and unconscious bias training that's available. That's all mandatory for staff.
Thank you very much for your answer. Alors, nous allons passer au groupe de discussion. Je sais qu'il y a une équipe, l'équipe Zoom, qui s'occupe de ça pour pouvoir gérer les petits groupes, et Khalifa va pouvoir s'occuper de la modération de ces différents groupes. Et ensuite, nous allons revenir d'ici une vingtaine de minutes pour entendre les résumés des différents groupes par rapport aux échanges. On m'avertit qu'il y a une question, une personne qui a une main levée. Est-ce que je peux vous proposer peut-être de partager votre question dans votre groupe et ensemble essayer peut-être d'arriver à une réflexion dans le groupe, et vous pourriez nous la partager quand on revient pour faire le résumé des discussions. Alors, je ne vous vois pas, je ne vous entends pas, mais je prends le silence comme un oui. So we're gonna go to the group discussion, and Khalifa is going to be moderating the group discussion, and we're talking about how to improve collaboration. Alors, comment est-ce que nous pouvons améliorer la collaboration? Alors, je laisse ça dans les mains de l'équipe technique. Est-ce qu'on a pu créer...
Bonjour, donc il faut que Khalifa donne les instructions avant qu'on va en groupe, sinon il ne sera pas capable de parler à tous les groupes en même temps.
Alors, à vous, Khalifa, pour les instructions au groupe.
Oui, bonjour. Je comprends qu'il y a 6 groupes, donc avec 2 par groupe qui vont répondre au thème. Donc, comment améliorer la collaboration? Je pense que la table a été déjà mise avec les différentes interventions. Donc, on disait où en sommes-nous, que faire et où est-ce qu'on va. Donc, si on focus sur cela, donc réfléchir et revenir ici avec des solutions concrètes. Des solutions concrètes pour finir la journée.
Alors, je vais donner la parole à Colin qui va un peu nous expliquer la technique, mais je nous donne une vingtaine de minutes, disons vers 2h10, pour qu'on puisse revenir pour donner le temps à écouter tout le monde.
Bonjour tout le monde. Donc, je vais vous envoyer en breakout room, en petit groupe, et on reviendra dans la salle d'environ 20 minutes. Vous aurez 20 minutes pour traiter de la question que M. Khalifa a partagée. Et aussi, choisissez un rapporteur dans votre groupe, donc quelqu'un qui va pouvoir un peu résumer la discussion de groupe ensuite quand on reviendra en plénière. Donc, j'ouvre maintenant les sous-groupes. Et vous devriez voir à l'écran l'option de rentrer dans le breakout room.
Mais qu'est-ce que ça signifie, room 6?
C'est ça, Dulari. Donc, Madame Principal, vous pouvez juste rejoindre le groupe et ça vous enverra dans le sous-groupe.
Ah, je vois.
Et Quentin, je suppose qu'automatiquement, quand le temps sera épuisé, ils vont revenir dans la grande salle?
En fait, on va fermer les salles, donc ça va les envoyer automatiquement pour qu'ils reviennent.
D'accord, merci.
So I'll just repeat the message in English for those who may not understand French. We've now opened the breakout rooms. You're invited to join one of the rooms. You should have seen a message appear on your screen. We'll come back in the big group in about 20 minutes. And the members of your group will discuss the question raised by Mr. Khalifa. And invited to share what you guys have discussed. Salut Robert et Monsieur Khalifa. Il y a certaines personnes dans leur groupe qui demandent quelle est la question qu'ils doivent traiter. Je vais l'envoyer dans le chat, mais peut-être si Khalifa peut la répéter pour que je puisse l'envoyer à tout le monde.
Je n'ai pas le... Nous aurons à répondre aux questions suivantes. Quelles sont les causes de la hausse des signalements auprès des enfants et jeunes d'ascendance africaine en général et particulièrement francophones dans le système des services à l'enfance de l'Alberta? Je répète, quelles sont les causes de la hausse des signalements auprès des enfants et jeunes d'ascendance africaine en général dans le système des services à l'enfance de l'Alberta? Première question. Deuxième question, la prise en charge par nos communautés des enfants et jeunes en processus de placement dans les familles d'accueil, est-ce une bonne approche pour la réunification familiale? La prise en charge de nos communautés des enfants et jeunes en processus de placement dans les familles d'accueil, est-ce une bonne approche pour la réunification familiale? Troisième question. Quelles sont les 3 grandes recommandations que vous feriez à Alberta Children's Services dans le cadre de sa collaboration avec Alliance Jeunesse Famille de l'Alberta Society? Je répète, quelles sont les 3 grandes recommandations que vous feriez à Alberta Children's Services dans le cadre de sa collaboration avec Alliance Jeunesse Famille de l'Alberta Society? Alors ça, ce sont les 3 questions à débattre et trouver des solutions, des réponses à ces 3 questions-là et nous revenir.
Salut, M. Khalifa. Je vais peut-être demander de répéter la deuxième question. J'ai manqué quelques bouts. Donc, pouvez-vous, s'il vous plaît, me répéter la deuxième? Merci.
La deuxième question. La prise en charge par nos communautés des enfants et jeunes en processus de placement dans les familles d'accueil, est-ce une bonne approche pour la réunification familiale? Est-ce que c'est clair?
Oui.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, au travail.
Recording stopped.